Good evening, good afternoon, everybody. This is definitely All Things Show filtered and unapologetic. I'm basically here with my face back into the place to give you some opinions and ideas and to let you guys know that Neo Soul yesterday around 7 o'clock, vibe, wine drinking, incense burning, chilling as if it wasn't even if. They basically put everyone in this somewhat kind of, I'm gonna smoke a joint, even though I'm not a joint smoker. I'm gonna drink me some wine, I'm gonna get my next cocktail, and I'm just gonna chill out, and I'm gonna listen to these queens and to these two neo soul queens come together and battle each other. Now, I wouldn't really call this a battle, but it was a battle. It was a battle as far as love and giving homage to each other. Understanding that each one of them has power within their own totality, if that makes any sense. And definitely you guys know who I'm talking about, who basically broke the internet last night on all social media platforms. IG, Instagram, let these two queens, Neo Soul, go on with no interruptions for close to almost 3 hours. I think it went on to around maybe 2.5 hours. But let me tell you, it was absolutely an experience like none other. And it came at a time where it was basically needed. Due to the fact that all of us are basically stationaried. All of us are in. When I say all of us, I mean the world and those of us who basically tune in to see these two queens of Neo Soul, Erykah Badu and Jill Scott, give you a catalog of no proportion. No proportion. And to introduce an audience of all stature, young, old, and in between. But not only that, to show what songwriting and what lyrics are all about, and to give you a sense of what it takes to basically write a song and what it takes to basically have a hit song. Now, when this battle somewhat of a curve started, now we know that I think we have Timberlake and Jazzy. I guess that's his name. I'm not, but I'm just going to call him Jazzy. And these two are basically producers. And so, they basically brought these two Neo Soul queens together. And they gave us what we were basically looking at, what we were sought after. As far as we could see the two styles in terms of the two queens and how they look at life and how they basically approach life itself. And to hear the stories and how a song actually come together. My first experience with, I'm gonna go with You Better Call Tyrone. bag lady. My first time seeing Erykah Badu on a tour, I was basically living in DC, doing my thing, still like kind of sort of in my 20s, excuse me, nose is itching, basically in my 20s. I don't know why my nose all of a sudden, excuse me, in my 20s, into, wearing wraps, wearing Afrocentric clothing, just began to do my locks. I no longer have locks now. And when I first saw her first tour that I saw, I got introduced to Baduism. And Baduism took me into a whole different galaxy. I mean, it just kind of blew me when I actually saw this tiny, statuesque woman coming on the stage in all of her African garment flowing all over the place, in a wrap standing to almost like a crown of a pyramid. But the fact that Erykah has been forthright in bringing forth her transitioning from one vibe to another vibe, and how she was basically introduced, or I think she was introduced by the Roots. I wasn't quite sure, or the Roots introduced her. But then that's when we got into Jill Scott. Now we know that Jill Scott has this, I can't even explain it. Jill Scott has this seductive, sensual way of bringing you into a situation, and you're not even knowing that you were already there. And I got introduced to Jill Scott when she put her first album out there. That first one was, I can't even think of that first one. That first one when she was explaining that the fact that, what was that song? I forgot what that song was, but it was that song where she was basically hanging out with her girls, and basically, she tells her girls, what was the name of that album? I'm going to post it and let you see it. But she had to go because there's some things that she had to do because her man was basically coming through. And, but for 2.5 hours, these two queens basically sung a little bit, gave us some stories, told us exactly how everything basically transpired. In my opinion, this got a chance for the younger. We are talking about baby boomers, and I'm one of those baby boomers. Loved myself, still do. Love myself some Erykah Badu. Love myself some Jill Scott. Still do. But this also introduced them to a whole new. When I say whole, I mean seriously new, smart, innovative, next generation that is going to take us from here and beyond. And we're talking about the millennials, the Generation Zs, the Generation X, all of us, we all were our face was definitely in the place yesterday. The one thing that I basically want to express is that I hope and I pray that we as a people, the black and brown community, we definitely need our own tech platform where we can basically make sure that we we are a source to be reckoned with, and that we begin to put our money in our community. And that another thing that I wanted to say, the platform that I basically was on, I was beginning to get a little bit, not disturbed, but the fact that I was basically looking and hearing and listening to these two dynamic women, entertain us. And I know I dropped a dime. When I dropped a dime, I contribute. And that eventually the money started coming in, but we need to support our artists. I mean, they can't, this is a way for them to basically make money, to basically support. We're not, they're not asking you for anything, although they did started bringing out merch and stuff like that. But we need to basically support our own to make sure that they will be able to get through this pandemic. Because not only are they suffering, all of us are suffering. And the fact of all of us are suffering, but there are large numbers of brown and black that have lost their lives through this pandemic. Now, this is a way for us as a people, as a group, to support our artists, to make sure that they are okay, because some of them they don't even know where their next meal is going to be coming from. So this is just a small thing to when they have these battles. Contribute 5, 10, whatever, even though they may not be asking, but I'm going to ask for them. Contribute, because this is how they are able to, to be able to do some things. Because like Gabrielle Union said, some of them are just 1 or 2 paychecks away from being homeless. Now, I'm also going to pay homage to, we lost one of our greats. And he was 87 years old. And I'm talking about Little Richard. Those of you who are in Generation Z and millennials, and not so much of baby boomers, because we basically knew who Little Richard was. Now, Little Richard had basically paved the way, and I'm going to really say paved the way for rock and roll. And even though he did not get recognized basically the way that he should have, he lived until he was like 87, which that is basically wonderful. So that meant that if he was 87, he lived through the 1990 Spanish pandemic. So he lived a wonderful life, but at the same time, he lived a life where he was basically discriminated. Where is that when it came to royalties, he basically had to fight and battle for what was rightfully his, because they did not, the music industry at that time, and probably still is, was stealing his royalties. He was not getting, paid for, songs that he was able to do. And thank goodness for basically Michael Jackson. If it was not for Michael Jackson buying Little Richard's catalog, and he bought Little Richard's, a lot of people may not know, but he bought Little Richard's catalog, and basically he gave Little Richard his catalogs back to him. And the fact that Little Richard, when it came to being who he was, as far as being flamboyant, I'm going to say as probably, maybe, not quite sure, he might have been the first androgynous man who was, he could, the way he was built, the way he carried himself, he was one of those, non-conforming person. And I will also even say that he even paved the way for Prince, as far as wearing and being who he was. He basically paved the way for basically Prince, to be able to wear the flamboyant clothing, to be able to sing the seductive songs, to be able to wear makeup. A male wearing makeups in the early 60s, early 50s, that was basically unheard of. So I'm just wanting to pay homage. We also going to pay homage to Little Richard. May he rest in peace. Until the next time, this is All Things Cheryl. Definitely Faces in the Place. And our two queens broke the internet, and we're talking about Erykah Badu and Jill Scott. Till the next time, remember, love is definitely for everyone, and this too shall pass. If you get a chance, like the video, view the video at least 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes, and then click it and become a subscriber. Till the next time, this is All Things Cheryl. Peace and love.